Members of Congress are calling on the military to overthrow President Trump, to deliberately disobey commands from the commander-in-chief. I want to go over what's going on with the pipe bomber situation, Tucker Carlson's breaking story about Thomas Matthew Crooks, how this plays into can we trust the FBI, as well as new data out about how the American people are being screwed over. To help me go through that, I have Enrique Tarrio. Enrique, thank you for joining me again.
Steve, always a pleasure. I think last time I was in front of the Capitol, correct?
You were.
Yes,
yeah,
I was. There. Now I'm in my office.
All right. Well, good to be with you again. Just some background for my audience. The internet describes Enrique as the leader of the Proud Boys group, the mastermind behind the January 6th Capitol riot. They said he deserved to be in jail for the rest of his life. They were able to get a 22-year sentence, even though he wasn't in DC, didn't plan anything. There was no grand scheme, except maybe there was, but it was the FBI. I want to go through all of that. But first, there are Democrat members of Congress today that put out a video actively asking the military to stand down, to disobey Trump, to overthrow him. Let me go ahead and play that for you and the audience, and then we'll react to it together.
I'm Senator Alyssa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly.
Representative Chris DeLuzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow. I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
and the intelligence community
who take risks each day to keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens.
like us. You all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
Right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad, but from right here at home.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution.
We know this is hard.
And that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
The Army, or Navy,
The Air Force.
Your vigilance is critical.
and know that we have your back.
because now, more than ever,
The American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws.
our Constitution,
And who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
They used
Okay. Weren't you overthrowing the United States government? You were part of some secret underground group, and now you've literally got the Democrats saying, "Do not obey orders. Do not do this. Protect our." Your thoughts on this wackiness?
So let's start with a couple things that I noticed. Now, I'm not an intelligence community member of the intelligence community, but let's start something that I picked up while watching. This is the first time I see this video, by the way. Not the first time. I saw it scrolling and people commenting. I didn't click on it. But something that I see is you'll notice their eyes flicker from left to right as they're reading. They're reading a prompt. They're reading right off of a teleprompter. As a matter of fact, Senator Kelly, you could see it in the gloss in his eyes. That's number one. Number two, before we address anything that they said directly, can we address the fact that these people were in charge of were members of the military, and specifically the members that said there that they're part of the intelligence community, and one of them was a CIA officer. These were people that ran for office. These are people that were part of the infrastructure of our government. And what should scare people about this video, I think first and foremost, before what the contents of what they said, is that these people had power. These people had power to surveil Americans. In some cases, I think with Mark Kelly, he was in the Air Force. These people had the power to pretty much dictate who goes to jail, who doesn't, who gets their phones tapped. And I think that that's the scariest part, that these people shouldn't have been hired to begin with, because they use those credentials, just like the senator. The senator used all those credentials to get elected to the Senate in Arizona. these people shouldn't have been hired. So he wouldn't have those credentials. So he probably wouldn't be a senator right now. Now to address the thing that they said, what they're asking for is pretty much, they're not asking for whistleblowers. Did you hear the word whistleblowers in there? They're not asking for whistleblowers. They're directly telling members of the armed forces and the intelligence community to commit an act of treason. Okay, because that's what it is. It's not short of that. And at least, I'm going to keep harping on the senator because he's supposed to be above some of the political discourse that happens in this country. A senator is sometimes more prestigious than a governorship, right? Senators are supposed to be, I know we changed that we added an amendment to the Constitution to take away how it originally was, and now they're pretty much elected by the people. But this is the perfect example of why they should never hold the positions that they do. It's because they're asking, people that swore an oath to defend the Constitution to kind of undo the Constitution in this case, because they're not asking for whistleblowers. They're not like, oh, come forward. They're asking you to be brave and disobey orders. What happens if President Trump in 2028, let's say they steal the election again? What happens if President Trump goes ahead and says something like that? You think that they would be calling for his head? They'd be arrested, which I think, honestly, like if we don't start locking these people away, is a grim reality that they're going to lock up President Trump after his second term.
Yeah. They came right out and said, listen, we're government leaders telling you to disobey Donald Trump. And they said it in a clever way, right? Like, don't give up the ship. But they also said it directly: disobey your orders. I think here's another thing that came out this week that is unique to you, right? So you had Jasmine Crockett mocking Donald Trump and the people that went to the Capitol, saying, oh, you guys think the election was stolen and that it happened through these Dominion voting systems. She's now calling for the removal of Dominion because she says Donald Trump is going to rig the 2026 election.
Yeah, I saw that is absolutely ridiculous. And the term "don't give up the ship," it's one of the revolutionary flags. Why don't they use an appeal to heaven, right? Why doesn't that come into the fray? They try to use these patriotic themes, and none of them have ever been patriotic at all, judging by this video alone. Whether you like it or not, Barack Obama was a commander in chief. I expect the military to follow his commands. And politics aside, you might disagree with the side, but to tell a member that swore that oath and whose commander in chief is the head of state, I think, again, is an act of treason on its own.
I agree with you. All right. Stephen Miller at the White House, he pointed out in an interview earlier today how the American people are getting screwed over, and it really infuriated him. Let me show that, and then we'll react to it together.
40% of the population of rent-controlled housing in New York City are foreign-born. Think about that. In one of the largest metropolitan areas in the world, 40% of rent-controlled properties are being lived in by people who weren't even born in the country. What kind of system is this? We bring in people from foreign countries, and then we pay to lower the cost of their housing, while people who are born here have to pay higher prices. So when President Trump is reducing net migration, that is what's going to ultimately, along with all these other steps, deregulation, historic tax cuts, going to bring down the cost of housing.
Yeah. Let me ask you about
during the pandemic under Joe Biden. You had millions of illegals coming in. They were getting hotels, $700 a night hotel, 3 meals a day. They were given EBT cards, cash. Now we find out that 40% of the rent control in New York and other major cities isn't even for American citizens. We're literally bringing people in and then making their life better, their life more affordable. Why should the American people put up with this abuse?
I mean, they shouldn't, right? And look, I thought that the Democratic Party, that radical left Democratic Party, would have learned from the shellacking that they got in November, right? You'd be like, okay, well, we leaned a little bit too left. Let's just say a little bit. We leaned a little bit too left. And I was like, you know what? We need to be careful with the left, because what they'll do is they'll come closer to the center to win elections, and then, and then bury the needle. But that's not what's happening. It's like they're getting these people, this 40%, which probably is higher, to be honest with you. And they're giving them free housing on the taxpayer's dollar. And then on top of that, they want to keep raising your taxes. It just doesn't make sense to me. And that's why they continuously lose. And that's why they need to cheat to lose. Look, I don't know what I can't tell you what my position is with the filibuster, right? I'm a person that likes to get things done, but I also like to look in the future. If anything comes from the filibuster is voter ID. You want to stop these problems? You want to stop 40%, that 40% of illegals from getting our tax dollars? Kill the voter ID laws. Force voters to show their ID or their United States passport. I prefer the United States passport, or an actual a voting card, a federal voting card, to go vote. All these problems go away. They'll go away. I guarantee you they'll go away in one election cycle. Because that next election cycle, I guarantee you some of those seats from Proposition 50, that's that unconstitutional Proposition 50 in California, we will get back a crap ton of those seats. We will get back a crap ton of those seats when it comes to New York. And a whole bunch of other states. It's not going to stop. So you really want to stop these problems, you stop it at the ballot.
Okay. So one of my worries, this was exposed over the last couple of years, is they're literally just replacing Americans with cheap labor. They're replacing us with people from third world countries, people that don't speak English, don't have the same values as us, but we're paying for it with our tax dollars. And we just had an election that went to Zoran Mamdani because he harnessed the power of free. I'll tax white people, I'll tax more people, and then I'll give you all this free stuff. Well, now out in Los Angeles, the person running against Karen Bass, she's a self-proclaimed socialist. She's literally planning. She's come right out and said, I'm planning to run and win in LA, one of the most populated blue sanctuary cities in America, by taxing people and giving more free stuff so that the government can be the source of help for people here in our country. Your thoughts on, is this the new wave? Just socialists give away a bunch of free stuff?
So with Steve, let's be honest here for the viewers. You just saw the next mayor of Los Angeles. The previous election that happened, I think it happened like 2 weeks ago. They're not surprising, are they? They weren't surprises. What we're seeing is in these heavy Democratic districts, they're leaning even further left. They're not getting any more right wing. So they keep electing these people. The next thing that they're going to give you is they're going to give you all sorts of oppression. They're going to get the transsexual individual that's handicapped and is a communist, because Karen Bass is a pro-Castro mayor of Los Angeles. How much worse can it get? And you just saw it. You just put it up on the screen. And I think America isn't ready for that. I'm sure these big cities are ready for it. I was just in Portland, Oregon, and we helped pretty much oust Mayor Ted Wheeler. The Proud Boys, every time they went over there, people lost confidence in Ted Wheeler. And I said it. I said, look, this is going to make Ted Wheeler quit. And he kind of did. And what they got after Ted Wheeler was 10 times worse. So I was at a Republican event yesterday in Portland, and they were talking about like how impossible, like this really awesome candidate that's raised a crap ton of money. She looks me straight in the eye. She's like, well, I don't know if I'm going to win because it's impossible how the voting system here works and the bureaucratic mess that it is for them to win. All those states on the West Coast, the way that they run elections, needs to be looked at by the Supreme Court because it's not there's no fairness in those elections. You want to look at tyrannical governments, just take a look at California, take a look at Oregon. You see it right before your eyes, you know. Oregon, when it comes to Portland, more than most cities in California, they're way ahead of the curve. You want to see where America's next major blue city mayors are going? Take a look at Portland. They're about like 5 years ahead of everybody.
Wow. What was your reaction as somebody that's part of a group that is trying to raise awareness and do good, to then see President Trump come in and say, you know, the actual bad group is Antifa, and they are well funded. They, you know, during the Summer of Love, they teamed up with Black Lives Matter. They destroyed billions and billions and billions of dollars of buildings, cars, businesses. People were dying, and yet, you know, Proud Boys is in the headlines. Antifa is not. What were your thoughts when he said they are a terrorist organization and we're going to start going after the money trails?
Steve, that started, the Proud Boys kept going back to Portland all the way. We started in 2017 and we didn't stop. We didn't let off the gas. We kept that needle all the way pinned down. We had 2 events in 2019 and 2020 called the End Domestic Terrorism rallies. And the point of the rallies was to label Antifa a domestic terrorist organization. The president had spoken a couple times after our event. Specifically, the reason why we came up in the debate is because 2 days before that first debate with Joe Biden, we had an event in Portland, and we showed the polarity in both sides, how much different they were. We had a barbecue on one side of the city while Antifa burned their city down because they were angry they couldn't get at us, and we were able to show that. And then fast forward now into Trump's second term, the streamers over there and the patriots that are in Portland, my good friend CK, Katie also has been on the ground, and a lot of new streamers that came in. They've been exposing what's been going on over there. And I'm going to use Hillary Clinton's term. It takes a village, right? You know, we started this thing and they just grabbed the baton and they ran with it. And almost 8 years later, you know, we get what needs to happen, and we get it from this president. So I'm very thankful that everybody's efforts paid off to do this. I think now is how they're going to implement these laws. You know, I want to go after the funding. You know, the street thugs that are there on the street, yeah, they deserve to be put in prison, but it goes back to like the voter ID, right? You want to kill the problem off, you got to cut it at its base. Voter ID, having a national voter ID would kill all those problems. And then when it comes to Antifa, let's kill their funding, right? So let's kill that off, and let's stop funding them, and putting the violent ones in prison, and putting their financiers in prison for a very long time.
Okay. The last time we spoke, there was breaking news that it came out that there were 26 confidential informants from the FBI in the crowd on January 6th.
274 or 75.
Well, at first, though, it was just,
at first, yes.
Okay. So then all these videos start coming out of Nancy Pelosi admitting she was at fault. She should have had the National Guard. She, you know, let her guard down or whatever. And then it comes out that there's hundreds more plainclothes people. And then the video, you start looking at the videos and you go, wait a minute, that person bashing in a window, that's a fake MAGA person. That all these buses bringing people in. So what was your reaction when it came out that it wasn't just a couple dozen, it was a couple hundred that were in the crowd pushing people towards the Capitol?
It wasn't surprising because we kind of sounded this siren while we're in trial. I don't know if a lot of people picked it up. I think only the Gateway Pundit was the only outlet that picked it up. We didn't know about 274, but we knew there was more than the original 20 something involved, because there was, just in our case, there was 50 something involved. There was 27 confirmed, and the rest that we couldn't get their names or anything. It was under hush hush. Our lawyers couldn't even get the names to some of these people. So we sounded this alarm. So it's not surprising that this happened. And then they tell you, oh well, it was just some people. It was the FBI that reacted after the Capitol was breached. And there is some truth to that, because there is a number attributed to that, and it's in the double digits. It's not in the triple digits. So you still have 200 odd FBI agents and assets on the ground that day. So like all this news that's coming out, I'm glad that people are finally listening to it, but we knew this for such a long time. And is anybody really surprised? Right?
Yeah.
Is that the truth? Is anybody really surprised that the apparatus of our own government was one of the causes of this? Look, I'm going to give you one example. I'll make it brief. But in our trial, we uncovered one of the FBI informants. First and foremost, they never brought any of those informants that they managed to put into the Proud Boys as a prosecutor, as a government witness. That tells you something, because they all kind of said the same thing. Well, the Proud Boys did not actually plan this, so they couldn't put them on the stand and have them say that. Yeah. So we had to bring the government informant. Well, we find out that it wasn't just a government informant; it was an FBI asset, right? An asset's different than an informant, because they're getting paid for their work, and they're there to kind of steer things. Well, while he was on the stand, I'm like, man, this guy looks familiar. And they showed a picture of him before they breached the Capitol. I'm like, man, because I went through a whole bunch of videos of the Capitol breach, and I'm like, where did I see this guy? So I pull up. We were allowed to have laptops. I pull up the laptop. I'm like searching as fast as I could, but I remembered where I saw him. I saw him right by what's called the crypt, right? And there's this big aluminum sliding garage door that comes down. When that aluminum garage door was sliding down, this paid asset by the FBI, by codename Aaron, and his last name is Knowles. I always forget his first name. His last name's Knowles. We actually uncovered his full name. He puts a pedestal in the way of this closing aluminum gate, and he was the one that caused the major breach inside the Capitol. This guy was reporting to his handler almost every 5 minutes while he was in the Capitol. And so no, it doesn't come as a surprise. It doesn't. The news that has come out in the previous like 2 weeks doesn't come as a surprise to me. But people should be outraged, and people should want answers.
As soon as I heard the report, I immediately thought of you, and I was just like, oh my gosh, there were people in solitary confinement for a year. There were people like you would have spent the rest of your adult life in jail. I mean, just absolute insanity. And then I remember on my channel covering Christopher Wray just constantly over and over. I can't share that. It's an open investigation. How dare you say the FBI would be behind this? And then you find out to the tune of hundreds of people. And so I wasn't shocked, but I was taken aback, and it really blew my mind. And then now you've got this story about the FBI, like all this effort that they've put in, and they have no idea who the January 6th bomber is. And then now there's like pretty good evidence against this woman, and like nothing has happened except for her lawyer saying it wasn't her, and we'll sue if you keep saying her name. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that pipe bomber situation?
So I picked up on the story early on before it aired. I looked at the details, and look, if you put each individual detail in a vacuum, like you're like, oh well, maybe not. Maybe the 94% gate, the gate analysis, there's a chance that it might be off. you're like, well, there's 6% chance it might be off. You could do that. You could go into vacuum, and then you could go, well, Kyle Seraphin, along with a couple of other whistleblowers in the FBI, some of them current FBI agents, they went ahead and were staking out a house. Specifically in this case, it's Kyle Seraphin. We're staking out a house, and Kyle had no idea. He didn't know this until Steve was working on the gate analysis. He was in 2021. He was at a property staking something out. He asked for a knock and talk, and he was denied the knock and talk, and they pulled him off the case, off that stakeout. And lo and behold, 4 feet, actually less than 4 feet away from the door that he was staking out, lived this woman, Mrs. Kirchhoff. And the reason why they were staking out the house was because of a transit pass that was used by the bomber. I'm a person, if you know Washington, D.C., and if you zoom out, if you get on Google Maps, after this show, and you zoom out of the greater Washington area, put those 2 pins next to each other and zoom out and take a look at what are the chances that the neighbor of this person that was being staked out because he bought some type of transit pass ends up in the hands of his next door neighbor, which coincidentally matches a 94% on a gate analysis. Maybe there's like this 1 in 1 million chance or more. That's actually probably a lot higher than that this isn't the person. But reasoning tells me and logic tells me that this is the person. I truly, honestly believe that she is the pipe bomber, right? What's going to come of it? Well, we've seen the way that you bury a story, right? In today's media is you delay. And like there was this big uproar in the beginning when Steve first published the story. And even in the days prior when they announced that they were going to publish the story, there was this big uproar. We haven't heard anything. I really want to like Kash Patel. I really want to like Dan Bongino. Communication in these institutions are key. And really because, nobody has faith, left or right, nobody has faith in these institutions. And how do you have faith in these institutions? Communication. If I was a director of the FBI or the deputy director of the FBI, and this was a false story that went to a dead end lead, how easy is it as a director? They're on Twitter all day. They're on news shows all day. How easy to be like, hey guys, look, we kind of looked into this. We'll look into it again. If you want to kind of play that card, we'll look into it again and we'll see if it's true, or just straight up deny it. But with no communication, they left everybody to their own devices. But already it's been like 2 weeks. So the story's dead. Things now we're talking about the Epstein, which the House just passed. By the time you air this, probably the Senate passed it. We'll see what comes of that. The MBS is at the White House. The story is pretty much dead and stale, so all they have to do is not talk about it anymore, and it kind of dies off. Let's be sincere. If they don't talk about it anymore, it's just a small group of people that are focused on this. That's it. Their voices are drowned out because there's so much going on. These things have to be, we saw the FBI rapid response Twitter, right? Come out of the blue. And you know what the first thing they did? They went after Tucker. The FBI created this rapid response Twitter, similar to what the White House has with Rapid Response 47, to go and say, well, Tucker's wrong. Well, they got community notes on that. I don't know. It was their 3rd tweet ever and got hit with a community note. It wasn't accurate. It wasn't. Tucker's reporting was accurate. Their depictions, and I don't get it. It's a slam dunk. It's the Biden FBI. You want to slam dunk Kash Patel? You want to slam dunk Dan Bongino? Go ahead. You have it right there. They didn't do anything. And then here we go. Tucker Carlson again with the fire, with the flame on his hands. You ever play NBA Jam?
Yeah.
He's on fire. Okay. He brings out all the documents around, along with Miranda Devine, bring out all the documents of another transsexual shooter. What are the chances of the two highest profile assassinations and assassination attempts come from transsexual individuals? I'm using the word transsexual individuals because that doesn't get anybody banned. If I use the other word, yes. But you understand, it's too many coincidences are in play here. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't want to put my aluminum hat on. But you leave everything to their own devices. Steve, Miranda Devine, and Tucker are doing better than an agency that has an $11 billion budget annually.
I know, it's wild. Okay, so really quickly,
go ahead.
We're these are allegations. We're not saying anything. Although it's very interesting that they tracked the bomber to within 4 feet of where this woman lives.
Yes.
The bus ticket was supposedly next door. She's the exact height. AI believes 94% accuracy. The way that she walks matches, and human analysts put it at 98%.
That's correct.
She also was there the next morning, one of the first people firing rubber bullets through people's cheeks, into the back of their head, busting open their skin. She was throwing pepper bombs. And then you have, Cash and Dan putting out, hey, don't do our work. We had 480 FBI people, 1,000 interviews, 2,000 public tips, 13 seized digital devices, 500,000 digital images, hundreds of hours of video footage, 10 different financial accounts, 25 online accounts, and yet we know nothing. And like you said, they moved on. I mean, the easiest thing would be, have any of your friends seen you wearing black Nikes with a yellow swoosh? Like, to me, that would be the slam dunk. Yeah. And then where was this woman? Does she have any alibis? Like, it seems like you don't find what you don't want to look for.
And look, Kyle's rough around the edges, but
agreed.
He's right about this. He's right about this, and he comes at it because they want to discredit Kyle because he gets in arguments, and I think most of the time rightfully so. He gets in these arguments, right? And they want to discredit him because of his character, right? But he said something the other day that was because, like, look, none of us are FBI agents, right? At least I'm not. But he made so much sense here. He's like, this is how we put a case together, right? You start with these little clues and you put them together, and that's how you build a case. And these aren't little clues. These are things that put people in prison, right? And they're enough to go by. I know a lot of people say that they don't, they don't think. I honestly, in my heart, I believe that this is the person. Can I say that with 100% certainty? No, but I'm up there. There's if you put the decimal points on there, right? It's long. It's 99.9999. That's how I feel. I know a lot of people don't want to, or you can't say it because they don't want this security that goes behind it. But like, there's just too many coincidences. I respect people that like, want to be cautious and stuff. But look, those numbers that were given, how many of those numbers that we saw? Can you bring up that chart up? Do you have it available?
Let me pull that up.
But while you're doing that, like all those numbers that he showed, we had this much people look into it. We had this much. We had 1,000 interviews, 2,000 public tips. How many of those 1,000 interviews were conducted by Christopher Wray's FBI? Right? Mm-hmm. How many of those 13 seized digital devices came from? Are those devices? Can we attribute half of those 13 devices to the new FBI, which is kind of like the old FBI? But I don't think so. I think I'd be giving a lot. I'm willing to say that those 13 seized digital devices were the 13 of them were picked up by Christopher Wray. Those 1,000 interviews, maybe they did 100 of them. They didn't do 1,000.
Yeah.
So you're giving me Christopher Wray's numbers. What have you done? What has this FBI done? How many interviews has it conducted? Let's break that down. 25 online accounts.
Yeah.
Where? And where are those accounts? Where's Mrs. Kirchhoff's social media accounts? Why can't we see those? Do we need another like Epstein uproar for the Congress to release these files? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I will say almost 2 years ago, you had a former member of Congress and an active member of Congress that both said, based on everything they've said, they were convinced it was an active Capitol police officer that was the pipe bomber. And then we find out they tracked somebody to within 4 feet of their house, and the FBI says, stand down, don't ask any questions. In fact, ignore the whole thing. We're going to go interview 999 other people that aren't this person.
Yeah. And look, it might come to that. Maybe she sues because she knows they can't release those files. But I don't see her suing. I saw her attorney say like some things, but why isn't she suing? Why isn't she going, and there's a lot of controversy. And it should be the most transparent FBI in United States history. And look, I'll applaud. I won't say I'll applaud them, but they brought the numbers out. They're like, oh, we've gotten this many sex traffickers, we've gotten this many major drug importers. I'm not going to clap for that. That's what you're supposed to do. That's like the basics of being between the DOJ and the FBI. That's your basic stuff. I need you to go above and beyond. I need you to communicate better. I need you to start these people that weaponize the government against its people. Those people need to be investigated and put in prison, right? How hard is it to communicate? And look, and then there's another optical thing. I know that Elijah Schaffer and Kash Patel's current girlfriend, they have a thing where she sued Elijah Schaffer. If you're the director of the FBI and your girlfriend tells you, hey, I'm going to sue this guy for slander, whether it happened or didn't. I don't think it happened because it's a picture. I think he put a picture up. It wasn't even words, not even a meme with words or anything. But you come home after a long day of running the lead in law enforcement country in the world, and she tells you she's going to sue. Wouldn't you be like, hey, babe, look, please, let's not do this now because it's going to distract from my work. Like, let's say it's all true. Let's just say Elijah Schaffer said whatever he said, and you could sue, and maybe you could win. But as an FBI director, you have to think of the people first and be like, hey, please don't do this right now. The statute of limitations, I believe for libel, I think it's 5 years. Do this after the term. Don't make my work any harder. Sometimes you have to take those decisions and you got to make them right, because then it starts spinning. It's like, oh, FBI Director Kash Patel is using his girlfriend by proxy to silence his critics. Whether that's true or not, it doesn't matter. The perception is everything. And that's why we want that transparency from the director. I want to trust them. But they've screwed up so much.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I've got Kash Patel's private phone number right now. When he became FBI director, I texted him congratulations. He was on my show 4 or 5 times. I want to believe him, give him the benefit of the doubt.
I do too.
But come on, like there's information that we want. For example, they're saying with this gal who's accused of being the pipe bomber, we can't have access to the digital stuff. Well, that's what they said about Thomas Matthew Crooks. Yeah. And then Tucker Carlson completely blows that story up in the last week, proving that this guy was prolific on the internet, very active, very negative, lots of threats, lots of gun violence talk. He went from loving Trump to seeing January 6th and the lockdowns, and then he became very anti-Trump to the point where he was like, I'll just shoot this guy and change America forever. Did you have an opportunity to watch that yet?
What, the Tucker thing, or
the Tucker Thomas Matthew Crooks?
I have not been able to see it. I've just read the articles. It goes, look, and he has the opportunity. Look, Trump is a person that's about loyalty to the Constitution and loyalty to those that protect it. You have a president that if you're the FBI director and you make a decision, he's going to back you no matter what. We've seen that. He's backed Kash Patel, you know. Do what we you know, I was so happy when they said, oh, you know who's going to run the FBI? Who's a nominee? Kash Patel. I'm like, oh my God, this is so great.
Yeah.
You have the opportunity. He has the opportunity to do what we want him to do. He can't be afraid. He's got the leader of the free world at his beck and call. You know, President Trump is loyal to the Constitution. And again, I'm going to say, and to the people that are in those jobs to defend the Constitution. So go ham. You know, if you could text them after the show and be like, hey, go ham. You got somebody that's gonna back you. Let's do this. If it wasn't Kirchhoff, and in the chance that I'm wrong, right, and so many people are wrong, which is a lot, come out and say it. Come out straight and be like, hey, it's not her, bro. We checked it out. Here's what we got. Maybe we can't show you everything, but here's at least proof that we cleared her, right? Redact the parts that say, well, blah, blah, blah. No, we cleared her because of this and this and this. At least show me some redacted files. I'll complain about it being redacted, but at least show me some redacted files.
Yeah.
We need to win. We only got 3 years. If we don't start putting these people in prison, they're going to put us in prison.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to put Donald Trump in prison. We lose Congress, put it on Poly Market. Within 30 days, he's going to be impeached. 30 days, he's going to be impeached. It's not going to pass the Senate. And put it on Poly Market. Enrique Tarrio is telling you right now, if the Democrats steal the election in 2028, on January 21st, 2029, they're going to raid Mar-a-Lago again. They're going to put him in cuffs, and they're not going to let him go. He's not going to get bail.
I agree. Okay, the last thing, and I appreciate you coming on. The only thing I do wonder, just giving Kash the benefit of the doubt, because I like him and I wanted him to be the guy.
I do too.
Is there a chance that they're remaining silent because they want to go after whoever pushed her to go be the pipe bomber? Because I don't think she just came up with that on her own.
No, she did. So let's start with that. She did not come up with this alone, on her own. The fact that, I mean, this is a Tom Clancy novel. I mean,
yes,
the new person that works for CIA is the person that matches the gate and the person that lived next door. And I think there's a couple other details that I'm missing. My brain is drawing a blank. I haven't slept in a while. I just took a red eye last night, but it's a possibility. It's a possibility that they're like, okay, let's wait it out. Let's do this. At that point, you know what? I'll say that I'm wrong, right? I'm not above. I'm not out of pride. I'm not going to sit here and be like, nah, they're bull crapping us. Like if they bring like something, I'll be like, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm sorry that this happened. Look, I'm not a big fan of Pam Bondi, right? But every time she does something great, I'll retweet it. You know, I'll retweet it. I'll be like, oh, good job.
Yeah.
You know,
and the reason I say that is they always want to go up the chain to the bigger fish, right? And the other thing is, remember those murders out in Idaho, and
yes.
they arrested the guy, and then they end up letting him go. Daily Mail did this whole thing, like, gosh, they thought they had the guy, and they let him go on a stupid thing or whatever, and that whole thing was a setup to get on camera whether he had damage on his hand. And then they used that against him. And now that guy's going to jail. He's in jail, right? He's going through a murder trial. So that's what I'm wondering is like, okay, are they going, crap, Blaze, I wish you hadn't put this out because we're trying to go up the ladder to get the bigger fish, but we will come back and get her. That's what I'm hoping is going to happen.
Yeah, I'm hoping it too. You know, I'll pray for it tonight. I'll pray that I'm wrong. I'll pray for guidance, right? But all I'm asking is for them to communicate better, man. You know, we need to know. By this time, I think it's like 700. There would have been 700 January 6 arrests in the Merrick Garland's DOJ and the Christopher Wray's FBI at this point. And I'm not saying that we should shoot first and ask questions later, you know, because that's what Merrick Garland did. He shot first. He broke people's doors down. He pulled them in, and then went through these show trials. But I'm pretty sure that here's my last point on this is, you got the statute of limitations coming up on January 6th. January 5th was the placing of the pipe bomb. I don't know if that extends it anymore, but I think the statute of limitations on most of those crimes are 5 years. You know, they could find a conspiracy and extend that time, but we're coming up on the anniversary, the 5-year anniversary, which is the statute of limitations. You can't close that case, you know. Yeah. So at least if you can't catch the bad guys, catch this one, and then see if she turns, and at least tell the public who did it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Enrique, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate your time. If people want to follow you online, where can I point them towards?
You could go to my X account, I was going to say at X, at Noble One, NOBLE, and that's spelled out ONE, at Noble One. And then if you want to support me and my work, I got a couple articles coming out this week. You go to noblelead.substack.com and hit the subscribe button.
Okay.
I got some paid subscribers only. I do a lot of that content as far as video goes, but that's how you could support me. And I appreciate it. Every time I come on, it's a great time, Steve.
Well, I appreciate you spending time with me. I'll put those direct links down below. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too, Steve. Take care.
Thank you.